welcome back to the channel with me, Delta, and today we are doing something a bit different. I'm going to be going over the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary announcement trailer and everything in it, doing kind of an analysis of the trailer and giving my thoughts on it, and quite a bit of theorizing as well. This, whole video is going to assume you actually know stuff about Kingdom Hearts, but, yeah, we're just going to look over the trailer and kind of see what's in it. There's quite a lot of stuff. I'm sure you've already heard about the main announcement, but we'll start from the beginning. There's some other stuff to go over too. It's split into 3 parts. Everyone's obviously talking about, Kingdom Hearts 4 at the end, but I'll try spending a little bit more time on the other 2 as well, because they do seem pretty interesting. So, after this opening part, it starts off with the Dark Road finale, and I don't really know much about Dark Road. I don't think most people do. I'm going to mostly catch up on after the finale, and I believe pretty much all of this footage is new, but some of it, like this scene, we've seen in screenshots before. So we've got Xehanort talking to the mirror, and we'll get the explanation for Xehanort's question, where he asks if it recognizes him in just a moment. We're in Scala next, with all the lowerclassmen. And Xehanort here mentions he doesn't know why he wants to be a Keyblade Master until we cut to this scene, where he very much does. And this is another scene that was shown in the screenshot, where he's about to fight Ericus. And just after this, we have Xehanort saving Vare from an attack from the mirror, which is why he asked if it recognized him. Back in Agrabah, these two, Blizzard and Volcanic Lord from Kingdom Hearts 2, and then we got Cerberus. I'm not sure if they're showing these bosses specifically, just to avoid, spoilers on what the new bosses are, or if they're trying to make some kind of parallel here between, Xehanort's journey in Dark Road and Sora's journey throughout, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. So, here we got the upperclassmen. And judging by what they're talking about, they're in the Enchanted Dominion. In a second, we'll actually see them here fighting Maleficent's dragon. And then we've got this very interesting cutscene. So, here, this guy is talking about, Kingdom Hearts, the whole thing that the series is named after. And Odin mentions that Kingdom Hearts is forbidden. So, this guy here is one of the only people who ever mentions Kingdom Hearts in, the whole series, much less this specific trailer. So I feel like he's going to be kind of important. We've never seen him before. He's probably one of the upperclassmen. And, especially considering the next scene here, where he's asking the lowerclassmen, Xehanort, Ericus, and Vare specifically, to find light strong enough to accomplish their shared goal. I know, also the others are on the left. But, yeah, I've got a completely crazy theory that's not going to be true, but if it is, I've got this video as proof that I came up with it probably first. So, we've all been trying to figure out who the Master of Masters is, and we know very little about him. All we know is that he really likes the light, and he likes Kingdom Hearts. So does this guy. There'd obviously have to be some time travel shenanigans involved, because the Master of Masters is from the fairy tales, but I don't know, maybe it's Kingdom Hearts, you never know. So, next up we're here, and just based off the sky, I want to say it's the final world, but there's not really much to go off of. We got Xehanort and Ericus here lying on the ground in their armor, and one of the original darknesses, which were all supposed to be contained during Union Cross, so seeing one here is pretty concerning. Odin shows up, and judging by his dialogue, everyone is a bit dead. We'll see that in a bit. Xehanort wakes up with someone who is almost definitely the Master of Masters. And we got a scene between Ericus and Xehanort on the chessboard here, just talking about, light, normal Xehanort and Ericus stuff. And then in the next scene here, back to fight, we know they actually both not only survive this fight, but stay friends after it, so I guess it didn't go too badly. But what did go badly is everything else, as we can see just after the title drop here. Where, yeah, everyone has died. Now we've got the game everyone's kind of been like making memes about and joking on mostly, but it actually looks kind of good. Obviously people don't really like the mobile gacha games, but the story in Union Cross was pretty good, so we'll see with this. Now, just a second ago, you saw before the whole scenes, it said an unwritten era, which could really mean two things. The first thing I thought of is just an unwritten era as in a part of the Kingdom Hearts timeline we haven't really seen much from, because this takes place in old Skull Island, as opposed to new Skull, and, you know, we haven't gotten really anything from there. It's, like, directly after Union Cross, it seems like. But it could also mean unwritten in the Book of Prophecies, which would be more interesting for sure. So, we've got, here an actual in-game cutscene. The narrator isn't confirmed yet, because we don't have an English version of this trailer, but considering this guy showed up, it's most likely him, and considering he has no name in just a second, this is probably Luciu. The narrator could also be Brain, because he does show up near the end of the trailer, or maybe Sigurd, because, you know, he's important. But, yeah, my guess is on Luciu. We got some, you know, generic Kingdom Hearts dialogue, light, darkness, hearts. And then, in just a second, this guy shows up, and he is most likely the player, because, from what we see later, there's, like, a player character, so it's a Union Cross kind of situation there. And, I do, by the way, just want to mention how much I really like Old Scarlet. Like, it just looks really cool. I really wish we did get to explore it outside of, like, a mobile game and, like, a main series game, but I very much doubt that's gonna happen. He looks up at the statue of Ephemer we saw at the end of Union Cross, and the dialogue here is interesting. So, a city of light and darkness, it's Kingdom Hearts, yep, light and darkness. Dreams and distortion. Dreams have been, you know, becoming more recent ever since Dream Drop Distance, and then we got the final world and some other stuff going on. But distortion is kind of a new thing, and it's sort of mentioned later as well. So I'm wondering if that's like just some random throwaway line or words or anything, or if that's actually like something important. It certainly could be. And then Remembered and Forgotten is most likely talking about the people from Daybreak Town. You know, Remembered being like Ephemer and Forgotten being the random people who died. So we get actual gameplay now, and we can see kind of from the background here that this appears to be using like GPS real world stuff, and I think that was practically confirmed in like an interview or something afterward. And everyone's immediately thinking like Pokemon Go Kingdom Hearts Edition, but I don't think it is. It uses GPS for sure, but I don't think you'll be moving around in the real world all that much. Mostly because of this in a second. Yeah, people don't run up buildings very often, or run at anywhere near the speed. So it might use the real world as like a map for the game, which would be interesting, but it doesn't seem like you're actually going there in real life. Anyway, we have from here the actual combat, real-time combat. You see a statue show up just a second ago of Sora. If we go back, and these statues are, I'm assuming, replacing the medal system from Union Cross, so it's some sort of gacha mechanic, probably. Honestly, I don't even mind gacha games as long as they're not, like, pay to win, but, considering Union Cross, it probably will be, so I don't know if I'll actually be playing this one. But we got a, yeah, after the Sora statue, there's also a Donald statue, Terra, in just a second, Mickey, Aqua, another one of Sora, and then also Goofy. Now we got a shot of the Kingdom of Corona, which is another reason I don't think you'll be going places in real life, because the map seems to be all based off of Old Scala, and then here we got people fighting in the Kingdom of Corona, but we never see them moving around that area, so not really sure how you'll get here. And we get a Riku statue, and then some sort of non-elemental blast, which is interesting, before they use Terra again. And now we've got this area. So, there's a few places this could be. the first impression is obviously Old Scala. That's where the game takes place. And it is similar, but, like, not exactly. It looks a lot more industrial, kind of. It certainly could be Old Scala, but there's a few other theories on what that could be. Um, Twilight Town, it is sort of that style of, like, the more underground sections of Twilight Town, which is maybe believable, but it doesn't seem likely. And then, because, yeah, if I remember correctly, Twilight Town really, like, doesn't do anything important until Roxas is put there. It's just, like, a random town. But, yeah, we have the last theory that I've seen, which is probably the most out there theory, but also one of my favorites of an idea, is that this is Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. And I haven't actually played Final Fantasy VII or the remake, so I'm not sure how accurate it looks. But the main evidence is right there, the Cloud statue. That specifically, it's the only Final Fantasy statue in the trailer, and it's used right here. And not only that, in a second, when they cut back to something that's obviously Old Scala, and you can see there, like, just how different the two areas look, that they use the Cloud statue again directly after that. So they could be hinting at that, or it could be completely on accident. And then finally, we have a dark side fight with this arena, and I'm not sure if it's like a specific location or if it's just like a generic kind of boss arena thing. It kind of reminds me of 0.2. And also, there's other players around, so we've got, multiplayer confirmed. Back to a cutscene here. We have Lucio again, and I mentioned distortion earlier. Here he mentions the star shown contorted in the pitch black sky, which is very interesting. Again, the whole contortion, distortion kind of thing going on. So I think there's some sort of theme. We've got Brain here as well for his first time in 3D, and another zoom out to this building, which looks very much like the whole, those buildings that are on top of the islands in Scala. Specifically, the one where we fight Xehanort. It looks very similar to that exact same building, so I think that building might have a good bit of importance. And now we get the title drop as well, Missing Link, which, just the title of Missing Link does, again, link back to that whole unwritten era thing, which is pretty interesting. And closed beta in 2022 is pretty cool. And now we've got the main event. So, we get a name for Phase 2, the Lost Master Arc, and the only precedent we sort of have for phase names is the Dark Seeker Saga, which was named after the antagonist. So here, it could be that the Lost Master is referring to the Master of Masters. It does seem likely, if we're going with a whole fairly solid theory, that he's the antagonist. But my first reaction to seeing this was actually that Sora was the Lost Master, which could also make sense. I mean, honestly, it could just refer to both of them. But here we are in Quadratum, which looks absolutely amazing. So, I just really like how Quadratum looks. It's literally just Shibuya, but still looks good. Also, of course, the graphics are, like, absurdly good. Apparently, this is actually, the trailer is in Unreal 4, but the game itself is going to be in Unreal 5. So, it possibly could look even better somehow. I'm not sure how, but it can. We have some narration here, which we're not sure who the narration again is. It could be the Master of Masters. He shows up in a little bit. Could also be Lucio, because someone who I'm assuming is Lucio also shows up. And I've heard people say it could be young Xehanort for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just what the voice sounds like. And they've got some interesting dialogue. So they're saying someone, assuming Sora, can leave this world for another. You'll see in just a second. But that makes it sound easy, and we know from Melody, Memory, and Remind that Sora has at least not returned to the Realm of Light, even if he's left Quadratum, for at least a year. So it's not exactly easy to get back. And also we get this menacing darkness ball forming outside, with your options are endless, which is, again, a very interesting line. And then this. A lot of people are glancing over this as just generic kind of Kingdom Hearts dialogue, the whole light, darkness, heart stuff. I think it could be actually pretty important. So the heart resides within the soul, which is in turn guided by fate to its rightful place. That essentially, we've heard souls mentioned just a little bit before, not very often. It's not like hearts or anything, but I think they could be pretty important because if we take this into account, you've got your heart in the soul. Now, the heart, that means, isn't connected to fate or destiny or it says fate right here. The soul is, which means that theoretically losing your soul means losing your fate. So that could come into play, or maybe I'm just overthinking it and it is just generic Kingdom Hearts light darkness stuff. But it could be pretty important considering they're fading to the black screen and everything to have this up. And then we've got this forest. First of all, it just looks absurdly good, but originally when I was watching this, I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but why is there just a forest here? The game seems to take place in Quadratum, and this forest doesn't really look like anything we know. And then we get this shot, and I didn't notice until I stopped pointing it out because I know nothing about Star Wars, but that right there, that's an ATST foot. Like, it just is. It's identical. And, yeah, apparently this forest is Endor from Star Wars. I don't even like Star Wars that much, but honestly, I didn't want it in Kingdom Hearts until now because I thought it would just be way out of place. It would be like, say, Pirates of the Caribbean in Kingdom Hearts 2, where it wasn't necessarily bad, it just didn't fit, and then, they managed to make it great in Kingdom Hearts 3, but yeah, I didn't think it would really fit with the series. This is the perfect way to introduce it here. With Quadratum, the more realistic setting, I think that is a great time to have it, and I'm actually pretty interested to see it. We get back to the chessboard. Sora's piece is the only one here, and it says the choice is yours once more. Really no idea what this is referring to? The whole, leave your options are endless, leave this world for another thing, it seems to link back to that, and with Sora's choice specifically, but I'm really not sure. We don't have much to go off of. And here we go, Sora himself. A lot of people are saying he looks, completely different, but I still think it's, recognizable. This is Sora. And the main two things that are different are obviously the outfit. He's wearing something kind of similar to his KH3 outfit, but it is certainly different. And also, he just looks like a good bit older. His hair is, obviously different. There is possibly a lore explanation for his hair, which is, I think, I'm not sure if Nomura said this or if this is just a theory, but some people are saying that Ventus being in Sora's heart is what gave him his spiky hair, because when he was a kid, we see in Birth by Sleep, he didn't have the spiky hair, and then after Ventus got in his heart, he did, and now Ventus is gone, back to not spiky hair. And his hair has also changed kind of without explanation before. The one thing that has not changed without explanation is his clothes, because Sora's clothes have always been important for some reason. They've got, magic abilities linked to them. So for him to just be wearing a completely different outfit is certainly interesting. And you'd think, oh, he's been here a while, he just changed outfits. He's also been here for a year, so he's older. But you'll see why that's not the case in just a second. So, yeah, Sora, this whole thing just looks great. A lot of people, okay, so, a few things. Everyone's talking about, the new art style. I actually really like it, I think it looks great. Some people are kind of put off by it. Two, Strelitzia is here. The person who just straight up died, 1,000 years ago, which, there's, a lot of stuff going on with that. So, yeah, a lot of things going on right now. First of all, the dialogue. She mentions Sora has been asleep for 7 days since he arrived, which means he only showed up in Quadratum 7 days ago, which is why I'm really confused about the whole new outfit and looking a year older. So, I don't know how he got a whole new outfit or aged up a year, but he has. And also, Strelitzia, yeah. She died 1,000 years ago, or probably, maybe a few thousand years ago. We're not sure exactly when Union Cross takes place. So, why is she here in Quadratum? The one thing I can think of is that she was sent to the final world when she died, instead of just, wherever people normally go when they die. There's not really any explanation of that. Tier 3 says, like, final world is where sleep and death touch. We're not sure where the normal afterlife is, but we see quite a few just normal people that are stars in the final world, so it's not, impossible for just a normal person to be sent there at all. And we know from Melody of Memory that the final world has a connection to Quadratum, so theoretically, Strelitzia could have gotten there through that. But even more confusing than that is not why she's here, but why she's now. Because she died, like, thousands of years ago, and she does look, a little bit younger than 2000. So, either she has died and gone to Quadratum and just not aged because she's dead for a very long time, or she had some sort of time travel going on. It could be that she died and she woke up in Quadratum in the present day for some reason, or some other kind of time travel. And we get an overview of Quadratum here, which people have actually figured out Sora's address from this already. This man has gotten doxxed after his first trailer. But we get this sign, which, one minor thing to point out that's not important at all, but it's kind of interesting. Language is kind of weird in Quadratum. I mean, it always has been in Kingdom Hearts, I feel like, but we saw what people have been, until now, calling Scala language, that we see a lot in Scarlet Kylum. In the opening shot, you saw it, like, in the building that the trailer started in, just kind of on a sign. And here we have just Japanese and English. Well, English letters at least, and you can see here, actual English. Like, we've got Scala language right next to English here, and from what, yeah, this isn't actually the same thing directly, because you can see, like, these are different characters. So, we have just a mix of 3 languages here, which, again, I don't think is important, but, it's a thing. So, Strelitzia here mentions, yeah, this is some sort of afterworld, or afterlife, for them specifically. She just says you and I, not, like, for certain people or anything like that. It is specifically for Strelitzia and Sora, which is interesting. We get the whole darkness ball, and it basically turns into Dark Side, but better. It just looks way... I mean, it is Dark Side. Or maybe it's... a lot of people have been calling it, like, Dark Side Neo, like, or Neo Dark Side, like the Neo Shadows. Something like that. We don't have a confirmed name, but it's a Dark Side of some description. And it actually kind of looks like a Invisible as well with its head. And then obviously it's, massive. So we see this guy just kind of straight up die. And then Sora, in a second, just starts, running towards it because he kills Heartless. We see everyone else running away, this dude just taking a picture, and then Sora here. And I just, for one, really like this shot of Sora summoning the Keyblade. It just feels really powerful, looks really cool. And we get our gameplay. And I use the term gameplay kind of loosely because this is obviously very scripted. It's, because this is an early trailer, so we're just doing scripted stuff, not full-on actual free gameplay. And a few things to note here. The command menu in the bottom left, it's, normal, standard kind of command menu. Except the last option. Every game has had a different last option in the command menu. It was like, I think, Kingdom Hearts 1 had, summons, I think there. Kingdom Hearts 2 had dry forms, and Kingdom Hearts 3 had links. Here we have build, which, obviously, a funny Fortnite joke, but I actually have a guess as to what I think this is that I haven't heard anyone else mention. So, I am pretty much an expert on dying to Yozora at this point, so I've seen the, like, death hint screen a lot, where, it says basically get good. But one of those things is be wary of the creations that Yozora puts forth. And so his creations are the, energy stuff he does, like the pyramids and all that kind of stuff, and giant ball that changes gravity, stuff like that. My guess is that build is possibly allowing Sora to make his own creations in kind of a similar style. I've heard people throw around a theory that Sora and Yozora are the same person or something like that. I'm not sure about that one, but him being able to build stuff like Yozora would definitely be interesting. And again, build is not an official translation. It could be something like create, or, I mean, build would still work for that as well, too. And, also in the bottom right, we have the EX bar, which, that was in the KH3 trailer too. That's just a placeholder for whatever they end up doing there. It could be focus, similar to KH3. Could be, I mean, it's in the dry form style, but I doubt we get dry forms, considering that was like a KH2 thing. So, I mean, or it could be used for, my guess is it would be used for the creations, if I'm right about that. Or whatever build does. And now we get some flow motion style stuff here. And the interesting thing, there's no blue particle effects. Flow motion has the whole flashy blue particles. We don't have any of that. And we see here in a second this kind of grappling hook, which first of all is really cool. He uses, it looks like the keychain, but it isn't actually the Keyblade's keychain. I'll get to that in a second. But this replaces air step. I'm assuming in gameplay it's going to replace air step. And functionally it's identical, but they specifically decided to get rid of air step and replace it with this grappling hook thing. That, plus the lack of the blue particle effects, makes me think that gameplay-wise, yeah, it's slow motion and air step. Lore-wise, this is just Sora being absurdly, like, agile and doing parkour and stuff, and he has this chain whip grapple hook thing. Which means that, lore-wise, there's no flow motion. Which kind of makes sense, I guess, but yeah, we have sort of a lore explanation as to how he does that thing when flow motion isn't there and we get the same gameplay. And with this chain here, it's specifically not the Keyblade's keychain. It's more similar to the ones that characters like Terra have used in the past, which essentially represent their bonds in a very literal way, so it's cool to see Sora finally using that. And for the rest of this fight, we kind of get just some really cool looking action scenes, a little skyscraper, this thing, very cool. And then a quick time event, which this specifically really reminds me of, one, the Rock Titan from the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, very similar kind of thing, and also Titan from Final Fantasy 15. It's, again, a very similar block-the-punch kind of against a giant enemy quick time event. So, he uses a Keyblade transformation here, we see, into a drill. And it's notable he's using the Kingdom Key, but it is a drill very similar to the one that the Keyblade from Toy Box uses, which could be hinting at him being able to use Keyblade transformations regardless of what Keyblade he's using, which is pretty cool. We see him sort of block it, and then one thing I have heard a lot of people point out, you can see here these like dark tendril fiber things that made up the dark side earlier, sort of wrap around the drill and power it up. And then he throws it back here. It does like the normal, dark side slam hand into the ground and summon shadows. But then we get a pan up here. And we get a very ominous line from the narrator. If you do leave this world behind, don't expect to return from the one which you came. Two options on what that can mean, really. Either we get back to reality, and a lot of stuff has changed, or we go somewhere else entirely. So, it pans up, and we get a shot of the Master of Masters and Lucio, is my guess as for who they are. No confirmation on that, but it's the most likely option. There's really no way to tell, though, until we get, English voice acting. And we get the title drop, Kingdom Hearts 4, which is insane to see. It really, it doesn't feel like it's been that long since KH3, but it has. And, of course, no release date yet, because, it's the first trailer. I wouldn't expect one. And we have one last scene here, just a minor one, with Donald and Goofy looking for someone, who is most likely Hades, and then he shows up behind them. And people have figured out that they're probably looking for Hades so that they can see if Sora is in the Underworld, because that's an afterlife. And I really like the theory that people are going with, that this game is going to be split up into two parts, sort of like Chain of Memories, or even more so, Dream Drop Distance, where you play as, there's kind of two halves of the game. So, my guess is Sora's going to be doing his thing in Quadratum, and some of the more live-action sort of Disney properties, like Star Wars, for example. And Donald and Goofy are going around the Disney properties that we've seen before, the more animated stuff, maybe some new ones that have to deal with the afterlife, maybe just ones we've been to, and looking for Sora. And unless that part with Donald and Goofy is just cutscenes, there's gonna have to be a third character, the one we play as, a most likely human character. And that's what's got me really excited, because we have Sora in Quadratum, we have Riku, who at the end of Melody of Memory goes to Quadratum, So if we're talking about the main three characters, the only one we have left is Kairi. So I'm probably getting my hopes up, but maybe Kairi exploring the worlds with Donald and Goofy could be really fun. I think it would be great to see like Kairi, doing essentially what Sora's been doing for the past three main series games with Donald and Goofy, but they have zero experience in that. They've got like fighting experience. I mean, they took on Xehanort, but not as much with the whole exploration thing and interacting with Donald and Goofy. And to end this off, a bit of speculation on the release date. So, there's been leaks before about a ton of games, and no one really believed they were going to be accurate because they promised so much. But one of those things was Kingdom Hearts 4, and here we are. So, assuming that's accurate, it listed the release date as September 2023, but that's most likely a placeholder. It could be correct that that's what's listed internally, like the leaks could be 100% accurate, and that could be what Square Enix has internally listed as the release date, but I very much doubt that that's going to be official. I do expect maybe like a 2024, 2025 at the latest release date. There's obviously a million jokes on the trailer about, yeah, can't wait to play this in 30 years, stuff like that. But I do think they actually learned their lesson from KH3. They've specifically mentioned that they announced Kingdom Hearts 3 way too early. So I really doubt they do the same thing here. Also, Kingdom Hearts 3 had a ton of delays. They switched the engine, and now they're not going to do that because they're already working with Unreal 5. And during Kingdom Hearts 3's development, Nomura was working on Versus 13 and a few other projects, I think. Versus here, the only project I think they've got him on is 7 Remake Part 2, which he's not nearly as involved in as he was with Remake Part 1, so he's pretty much got time to develop Kingdom Hearts 4. So I'm hoping it really doesn't take long. But I think that is pretty much everything I want to say on the whole trailer. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm incredibly hyped. We'll see how all my theories hold up whenever we get more trailers for it. I could be totally wrong. I probably am totally wrong about all this, but I'm just saying if that random guy from Dark Road happens to be the Master of Masters, so many people are going to be so mad because it's from Dark Road of all games, and I am going to be able to brag about it with this video. But that will be it for this one. I will see you next time.